Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Sorcerer, Lamenting of the Innocent, out May 29th on Metal Blade Records. This album has 10 tracks, 64 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. This band from Sweden have been labeled as epic doom metal. This album will force people to reevaluate that description. The album is very eclectic in sound and approach. This is an album that has two elements that allows that eclecticness to happen and without the tracks feeling disconnected or broken apart from each other. One of them is the element of the atmosphere, of the mood that the record has that really unifies every single song. It doesn't matter the sound, the structure, the feel that the tracks have, the ability to create this overall blanket that encompasses the whole album, and every single song, regardless of the direction of the sound, still have that same atmosphere, that same mood, is definitely a unifying element for this album. The other one is the spinal cord of its sound, and to me the spinal cord of the sound of the record is definitely classic heavy metal. You feel that there's other influences at play. You get elements of prog, doom, hard rock, post-metal. You feel all of these elements are there. They're present on every single track, having certain influences that dictate the sound of that specific track. But when you look down, when you look under the hood, if you will, the main sound that each single track has is definitely classic heavy metal. Everything else is there in order to adorn the sound, in order to expand the sound, in order to make the sound a lot lively, in order to have more volume, to make it bigger, and allowing the songs to go in different directions and be a lot more creative, not be bound by the walls, by the rigid walls of a specific genre, just really letting the creativity of the band take control of the album and go in any direction they want to go. And that, in my opinion, is very obvious with this record. It's obvious in the overall eclectic sound that it has, and it's obvious in the structure in which the album is put together. Speaking of classic heavy metal, this album also has a very classic structure. I really felt listening to this album, it had a little bit of a throwback, an old school feel to it. It's an album that starts off with a little bit of a crescendo, it dips in the middle with a couple of more melancholic, more melodic, more stripped down, almost, I would go as far as to say, more ballad style tracks in the middle, and then it starts to peak up again towards the last third of the record. So in that perspective, it's a very classic look, it's a very classic feel, and it matches extremely well with the overall classic sound that this album has at its core. So those two pieces to me are really interconnected. You could not have an album that has this kind of sound, even though being very eclectic, it still has at its core that classic heavy metal sound. You could not have an album that has that kind of sound and then have an album structure that does not meet those same requirements. So picking an album structure and a track listing that fits in with that more old school classic heavy metal style sound, to me is perfect. The two go hand in hand and really enhance the overall playability that the record has. The guitars on this album are absolutely phenomenal. They're very melodic, they're powerful, they're melancholic. The riffs throughout the record are really well capturing of the atmosphere, of the mood that the songs have. They really enhance the flavor, the texture of the tracks. But the solos are also magnificent. I really fell in love with the solos on this album because they were always able to give the song something extra. They were always able to know exactly what the song needed at that specific time. If you needed a little bit more brightness, if you needed a little bit more energy, or if you needed to stay within the same overall melody and the overall atmosphere that the track had. So creating the perfect solos for the perfect tracks, executing them in the way they did, when you mix that with the overall guitar work that this album has, it's absolutely magnificent. They really did a great job layering guitars one on top of the other, overlapping the guitar sounds, creating a lot of elements that are really old school elements as far as exiting off of a track with a guitar solo faded into the background. They just were able to create a lot of different elements with their guitars that really enhance the overall sound of the album. And when you have a record that's this eclectic in sound with these many influences, you really have to have great guitar players that can go in very different directions, that are not rigid in the way they play, that they're not rigid in the way they think and the way they approach music. So this record is really a representation of how good the guitar players are, because you have to be very good and very diverse in order to create an album that has this kind of sound. On a vocal side of things, it's also a very diverse record, at least more diverse than what I was expecting coming in. Predominantly clean vocals, and that is something that works really well with that classic heavy metal spinal cord that this album has. So I like that approach, but they didn't stay just with that approach. They didn't go with a linear vocal approach with one style fits all for every single track. There are some harsh vocals throughout the record. Not a lot, but enough in order to give those songs a little bit of something different, in order to create a different look, a different atmosphere to the track. And that's not the only things that they did on this album. I really enjoyed the vocal layers that they threw at the listener. I like the backing vocals, I like the overlaying of vocals in order to give more volume, to give more presence, without making the songs heavier. Just giving a little bit more thickness to the vocals, without going into harsh vocals, still using clean vocals, but giving a little bit more presence, a little bit more volume, making the vocals a lot more noticeable, giving the vocals a different atmosphere, a different mood, to really enhance where the song was going to go musically. So the overall vocal style and vocal approach and delivery on this album is also of the highest order. When you have an album that's this eclectic and you have songs that are this dynamic, it's very common within the track that you have to give the song a different vocal approach. They did that on this record. You need to understand in the verses what's the mood of the song, in the chorus what's the mood of the song, not changing the overall style, but changing a little bit of the delivery of the vocals is enough to make the song flow better and to give the song the perfect outlet at the perfect time. And to me, that's something that's definitely noticeable throughout this record. Overall, this album really grew on me. The first time that I listened to the record, I didn't connect with it. And I tried to understand why I didn't connect with it, because after listening to it multiple times, I really enjoy the record. I really like this record, really well crafted. So many different layers to it. It's an album that you rediscover every time you listen. So if the album is this good, why didn't I connect with it at the first time that I played it through? The more I thought about this, the more I realized that the eclecticness of the sound really threw me for a loop. Listening to a song that starts off almost like a doom track, that moves into a more melodic approach in the chorus, then changing into a more dark and somber, back again into the verses, was a little bit confusing for me. And then having a song that comes right after that, having almost a hard rock feel to it and a hard rock structure, threw me even for a bigger loop. And then the song after that having a completely different approach, having a post-metal intro followed by a more melancholic bridge with a very melodic chorus. Like, the songs are very eclectic on a track-by-track basis, and they're very dynamic within themselves. So all of these moving pieces really gave me a difficult time as far as assimilating the record, understanding what I was listening to, because going into the record I was thinking about epic doom, or I was thinking about doom metal. So when I sat down and I was faced with this sound, I couldn't fit this sound into that hole. I couldn't fit this sound into that genre, and not being able to fit the sound into that genre really started to affect me as far as my enjoyment of the record. I started having a hard time digesting, breaking down the album. The moment I start to think about not putting the record into a box and just listen to the songs, let the songs speak to you, look at the overall record, look at the individual tracks. The moment I start doing that, and I forgot about what genre this album is supposed to fit in, what category this record is supposed to fit in, I start to really appreciate the music for what it was. I start to really appreciate the tracks, the different elements of the songs, the different elements of the guitars, the vocals, how they're put together, how the whole album is constructed. And I start to realize that at its core, like I said at the beginning of this review, this is really a classic heavy metal record with other influences stretching that sound into different places, going into different directions. The moment I realized that, the album became 100 times better. I started to really grasp what the band was trying to do. I really started to understand what the record was all about, and then I realized how good this record was. So my advice for those of you that are listening to this album for the first time, don't put it away. Don't turn it off. Play it a few times. Forget about genres. Go in with a clear mind and enjoy every single track on this record. Every single song will offer you a different look, will offer you a different style, will offer you a different approach. As far as songs are concerned, I want to start off with Lamenting of the Innocent, which is the name of the album. My favorite song on the record. One of the most beautiful and melancholic tracks that I heard this year. Goosebumps every time I listen to this song. Dark and very dark and gloomy track. Dark, somber in the verses, really dark and somber in the verses, more melodic and brighter in the chorus. Using vocal layers to enhance the atmosphere of the song is something they did very well on this track, and is something that they do very well throughout this album. This is something that, in my opinion, really gave some soul to this song, having those vocals layered in, not just having one single straight line of vocals, but having other vocals underneath it as backing vocals as well, really gives a lot of soul, a lot of presence to this record. The guitar solos on this track are magnificent. They merge those two worlds. They merge that dark, gloomy, somber part of the song that you have in the verses with the more bright, expanded sound of the chorus. You really feel like those two worlds are colliding with each other during the solos, creating a lot of energy for this song. And I like the fact that the song finishes off fading away with the chorus, but not only fading away with the chorus on repeat, they added a little bit of a guitar solo in the background, really faded into the track, really an old school approach. This song, the whole song has an old school feel, the whole album has an old school feel, but this song really has an old school approach as far as the structure of the song is, and then the delivery. That closing at the end is absolutely phenomenal. I really like that. It's really old school stuff, going in with the chorus on loop, and then for the last time going through, as it starts to fade away, you can hear this beautiful guitar solo getting blended into that closing melody of the track. This song is absolutely magnificent. Next, Deliverance. This song features Johan from Candlemass and also Svante, a cello, a really famous Sweden cello player. And these two additions to this song really give this track a lot more life, a lot more energy. It changes the track completely. This is a really stripped down acoustic track with cellos in it. And that on itself creates a very beautiful ballad-like, really melancholic song from beginning all the way to the end. The way the two vocal styles interact with each other in a perfect duet, really creating almost a discussion, a conversation between the two of them as the song progresses, really enhances the beauty of this song. This song comes in the middle of the album. It's really that, it's the deepest valley, if you will, of the record before things to start to pick up again towards the last third. But it's a magnificent song. It's magnificently crafted, and definitely having these additions to the track really add value to the song. It really elevates the song. This is a song that there's no other that even comes close, not only as far as the sound, because of obviously the way it's constructed, being very stripped down acoustic with cellos. Obviously there's no other song in the record that has that same of approach, that same sound, but even the mood, the atmosphere, the emotion that this song carries, not only in the music, but in the way the vocals are coming at you, it's unmatched throughout the record. It's a very emotional song that really allows the album to reset itself towards the last third. Last but not least, Aged of the Damned. Heavy, dark riff that pushes through this track. This is a really guitar driven as far as the overall sound of the song is concerned, and that guitar sound is very dark. Not necessarily doomy, but very dark, almost a little bit of Black Sabbath mixed with Candlemass. If I have to explain to you guys better how that riff really sounds like, and that it drives itself all the way through the song. The vocals really determine the intensity of the track. The guitars are very steady, they're very linear in the approach from the beginning all the way to the end, and in my opinion, the vocals are really the ones that are switching it around, really determining where this track is going, really changing the intensity levels. The pre-chorus, in my opinion, starts to build up towards the chorus. It really builds up in volume, it builds up in intensity, and then the chorus provides a really cool hook that really liberates this track from the shadows. The best way to describe this song is a cloudy day with a few raindrops and a few rains of sunshine peeking through that rain and peeking through those clouds. Those rains of sunshine are definitely the chorus, and everything else is the dark and gloomy aspect that this song has, the nature that this song has, all the way through from the beginning all the way to the end. The solo really explodes on this track, in my opinion, really gives a little bit more brightness to the track, but it's a real faded brightness. It never changes. Even the solo, with as much brightness as it has, and the chorus as hooky as it is, and as much melody as it carries, I never felt that those two elements of the song really took away from the overall mood, that cloudy darkness, that rainy day cloudy darkness that this song has. And it's incredible that they were able to create a song that has those kind of pushes, those kind of dynamic changes, either be the solo or the chorus, without even affecting in the slightest the overall mood or atmosphere of the track. And that is something that's true on this song, and it's something that is true throughout the whole record. They're able to create very dynamic tracks that never change the overall mood and atmosphere that the album has across every single song. That is magnificent, that they were able to create this paradigm of dynamic motion, of elements moving all over the place, and at the same time be very linear, very steady all the way through, very calm. Alright guys, this is Sorcerer with Lamenting of the Innocent, once again out May 29th on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care guys.